Thank you very much and good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge we are in Treaty 1 territory and the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Inuit, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. I'd like to introduce the panel members this morning, Secretary of the Board, and of course our assessor. Via Zoom, Diane Knight is joining me as a panel member, as well as Brent McIntyre, and I will be chairing this morning's hearing. My name is Mike Truglio. From the Assessment Department, we have Nathan Kupfer, and the administrative personnel this morning is Tristan Breeden. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it's your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing application for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested has been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all evidence about the application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You'll receive the Board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We'll be hearing items 1 through 9 on our docket today. Mr. Breeden, please affirm the assessors and the applicant's testimony.
Certainly. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Nathan Kupfer.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you very much. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Marcelo Navarro.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
And I'd like to go to the first property on the docket today, being 330 Donald Street. I understand Mr. Navarro is going to want that confirmed, but I'd like to have read in the information that you have for us this morning, Mr. Kupfer. So please go ahead.
So our first property on the docket, that's file number 24-2018. The roll number is 1305-230-6500, and the street address is 330 Donald Street. The owner is Donald Properties Limited. This is downtown commercial surface parking. As I believe that's our docket and our focus for today. The land area is 18,173 square feet, and we have a 2025 model-driven assessment here of $2,272,000 that I'm going to recommend be confirmed. Taking you quickly down to page 2 here, you can see that we do have a recent sale for the subject property. It looks like it transacted most recently in August of 2021 for $2.4 million. Then just below that, you can see I've outlined the subject property here. It's on the corner of Ellis and Donald Street. It's a nice shaped property, just a pretty standard rectangle. Moving down to page 3, I've included a Google Street View photo. You probably recognize this lot. It's pretty central here in our downtown Winnipeg. Moving to page 4, these are the land comparables I believe I've used for every property on the docket here. I've included 12 of them, so we're showing a range here from some of the higher sales to the lower ones, as well as some of the larger ones and some of the smaller ones. So we've got a good metric of comparison for the different properties that we'll be discussing today. I would note that the subject property is comparable number 4 on my land comparables chart here. You can see 330 Donald is comp 4. Transacted for $132.06 per foot back in August of 2021. And then just below that, our land valuation for the subject property, which is at just over $125 a foot here for 2025. Beyond that, I've included the income and expense mailer as submitted by the property owner. Again, this property is being assessed at land value, so I won't get too much into the income and expenses. I think that'll be a common theme for the properties that we'll be discussing today. And then beyond that, beginning on page 9, I've included some photos and maps for all 12 of my land comparables. Again, I'll be keeping that as consistent as possible throughout the day. Yeah, and that takes you all the way to the end of the brief. So again, this property has transacted recently. It was for $2.4 million. It's included on my comparables list. We're assessing it at 2.272, which I think is quite reasonable. And I'm going to ask that 2025 assessment be confirmed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Questions, Mr. Navarro?
No questions.
All right. Ms. Knight, questions? You're muted.
I know, I'm coughing, so I muted it, sorry. No questions.
Mr. McIntyre, questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
And nor do I. Mr. Navarro, I understand you want this confirmed.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. We'll move on to the next property. That being 351 Smith Street. Mr. Kupfer, would you please walk us through your presentation?
Yes, sir. That is file number 24-2032. The roll number is 1305-263-0000. The street address is 351 Smith Street, and the owner is a Manitoba Limited company. Again, this is a downtown commercial surface parking lot. Quite a bit larger than the last one we discussed. This one's 34,637 square feet, so on the higher end where we're going to see today. And we have a 2025, again, model-driven assessment of $2,554,000 that I'm going to ask be confirmed. Moving to page 2 of the brief. There is a subject sale history here. However, it's dated all the way back to October of 2004. So it's quite old, but our transaction records are showing $1.9 million for that sale. You can see on the map, this is a bit of an more odd-shaped property. It runs along Smith, Notre Dame, as well as King Street. Again, in the downtown core. So like I said, this is because it's a larger parcel, Generally speaking, our model tends to use a lower rate for larger parcels, and the inverse also tends to be true. So you can see the land valuation on page 3. It's using a rate of only $73.74 over that area of 34,637 square feet. And that's how we're deriving our value of $2,554,000. Pretty straightforward. Again, it's on land value, so it's just one times the other. And of course, that net rate of $73.74 would take you down to the lowest range of my land comparable chart. Again, I've included the income and expense mailer. However, we're not relying on that for this valuation as we're on land. And then again, beginning on page 8, it's just photos and maps of my comparables and onwards. So that's all the information I have on this property. Again, $2,554,000, or just under $74 a foot being applied here by our model, and I'm going to ask that be confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Navarro, questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. McIntyre, questions?
I just have one question, and this will apply to the rest of the items before us. Are the sale prices time adjusted?
There is no time adjustment to the sales. These are the actual sale prices.
Okay, thank you very much.
Ms. Knight, questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I have no questions. Thank you. Mr. Navarro, would you like to walk through your presentation, please?
Mr. Chair, we're going to be asking for a confirmation.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 3. And this is file number 24-1628 on Cumberland Avenue. Mr. Cupford, could we hear from you on this particular property, please?
Certainly. That roll number would be 1305-2786-000. Again, no direct street address, just Cumberland Avenue. The owner is Public Capital Company. This is a smaller downtown lot, 6,000 square feet even, we have it assessed as, and a 2025 modeled assessment of $540,000. Scrolling to page 2 of my brief, like with the last property, we have no recent sales here. This 2004 sale appears to have a $1 consideration, which generally indicates that it's not an arm's length sale. However, I haven't investigated it, given that it's about 20 years prior to our reference date. Below that, you can see my highlighted aerial photo of the subject property. So this is, like I said, on Cumberland, between Hargrave and I believe that's Donald Street there. Yes, between Hargrave and Donald. It's rectangular in shape. Of course, the current usage is surface parking, as with the property next to it and the one across from it. Going to my next page here, page 3, I pulled a Google Street View photo of the property, so you can see nothing particularly remarkable about it. It's just used for downtown parking currently, and like I said, it's a regular shaped lot. Scrolling to page 4 of my brief. Again, you'll see the same land comparables and then the subject property land valuation. This one is being applied an even rate of $90 per foot over that area of 6,000 square feet, which is giving us our land value of $540,000. Beyond that, I've included the income and expense mailer, again, not being relied upon for this specific valuation. And then beginning on page 9 and onwards, you'll see the same downtown land comparable photos and maps. And that's all the information I have on this property. So again, 2025 land assessment of $540,000 that I believe should be confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cupfer. Questions for the assessor at this time, Mr. Navarro?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Questions, Ms. Lang?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. McIntyre, do you have questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
And I have no questions either. So, Mr. Navarro, can we hear from you on this particular issue?
We'll be asking for confirmation, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 4. This appears also to be on Cumberland Avenue. It is file number 241629. Mr. Kupfer, can we hear from you on this particular property, please?
This property is roll number 1305-280-1500. The street address, as you indicated, is simply Cumberland Avenue, and it has the same owner as the last property we discussed there, Public Capital Company. Again, commercial surface parking lot. This one just under 11,000 square feet. We have it at 10,909, and a 2025 assessment of $1,036,000, which I'm going to recommend be confirmed today. Scrolling to page 2, similar to the last property we discussed, an older sale with a $1 consideration all the way back to 2004. Not particularly helpful for our 2025 valuation here. You can see the shape and location of the highlighted property there. That is the subject property, essentially at the corner of Cumberland and Donald Street, North Donald Street, that is, north of Portage. And then you can see the shape of it as well. Not quite as easy of a shape there, but in use at least at this time as surface parking. Scrolling to page 3, I've pulled the Google Street View photos so you can get a better visualization of that configuration and the location. Moving to page 4. You can see the land valuation for the subject property being applied by our model here is just under $95 a foot in this case, over that area of just under 11,000 square feet. That's how we're deriving our value of $1,036,000. Below that, we have some information pertaining to the income and expense mailer. Again, it's not being relied upon for our valuation here, so we haven't asked for non-compliance in this case, simply confirmation. And then beginning on page 7, again, aerial photos and maps of all of my comparables. And with that, yeah, nothing else to speak of on this property at this time. So 2025 model-driven assessment using land value of $1,036,000. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions at this time, Mr. Navarro?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. McIntyre, do you have questions for the assessor?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
I do not have any questions either, so Mr. Navarro, can we hear from you on this one, sir?
Mr. Chair, we're going to be seeking confirmation on this property.
Thank you very much. We will be moving on to item number 5 on the docket. That being 311 Cumberland. Mr. Kupfer, can we hear from you on that, please?
Yes, sir. That's file number 24-1630. The roll number is 1305-2788000. This one does have a street address. It's 311 Cumberland Avenue. Same owner as the last couple properties that we discussed, Public Capital Company. This property is 7,405 square feet. It's in the same area as the last two properties that we discussed. We have a 2025 model-driven assessment here, $665,000, which I'm going to recommend be confirmed. Scrolling to page 2 of my brief, you can see, again, most recent transaction back in 2004 with $1 consideration. And then below that, the highlighted portion is the subject property. So it's just across the street from the last property we discussed and adjacent to the property we had two properties prior. It's just slightly larger at 7,400 square feet, whereas that one was 6,000 square feet, the one adjacent to the west. So again, it's on Cumberland between Donald and Hargrave. Page 3, I've pulled a photo off of Google, just Google Map photos here, so you can get an idea of what the property looks like from the street level. And then scrolling down to page 4, if our model's done its job here, we should be modeled right around $90 a foot, and indeed we are, $89.80 being applied over that area of 7,405 square feet. Is how we're getting our value of $665,000. Beyond that, I've included the income and expense mailer and all photos and maps of the comparables to be consistent here. But none of that I don't think is particularly pressing here for our valuation. Like I said, it seems to be modeled consistently with the last few that we've discussed. So with that, I'm going to recommend confirmation again of our 2025 assessment. In this case, it's $665,000. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions, Mr. Navarro?
I have no questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And Ms. Knight, do you have questions for the assessor?
No, sir.
Thank you. Mr. McIntyre, any questions for the assessor?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you, and I have no questions either. Mr. Navarro, can we hear from you on this?
Mr. Chair, we are seeking a confirmation.
Thank you very much. All right, we will move on to item number 6 on the docket. That being Donald Street, file number 24-1631. Mr. Cupfer, can we hear your presentation on that, please?
Certainly, that is roll number 1305-280-4000. The street address is simply Donald Street. Again, the owner is Public Capital Company. This property is again a commercial surface parking lot, one of our smaller ones on the docket today at 4,723 square feet. We have a 2025 model-driven assessment here of $425,000 that I'm going to recommend be confirmed. Scrolling to page 2, you can see again that $1 consideration for the sale back in 2004. And then below that, the highlighted section there is the subject property we're discussing. So again, we're in the same area. You can see Cumberland just to the north of the property. So we're just slightly south of the last few properties we discussed. This one faces onto Donald Street, whereas the others were facing onto Cumberland. So just to the south of those. I've included the Google Street View photo here of this property. This one would have been taken from Donald Street, I believe. And then below that, onto page 4, our subject property land valuation. Again, it looks like our model's been quite consistent here. We've got a rate at approximately $90 a foot over that area, 4,723 square feet, producing our 2025 land assessment of $425,000, which I'm going to recommend be confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Navarro, questions at this point?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. McIntyre, any questions for the assessor?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Knight, any questions?
No, sir.
Thank you, and I have none. Mr. Navarro, what are we doing on this one?
We are confirming, Mr. Chair.
All right. So be it. Moving right along to item 7. Mr. Kupfer, this is 127 Bannatyne Avenue. Would you like to walk us through your presentation, please?
Yes, sir. That's file number 24-3657. The roll number is 1306-282-4000. The street address is 127 Bannatyne Avenue, and the owner is 127 Bannatyne Avenue Limited. Again, we're dealing with commercial surface parking lot in the downtown area. This property is 12,637 square feet, and we have a 2025 model-driven assessment here of $1,464,000 that I'm going to recommend be confirmed today. Scrolling to page 2 of my brief, you can see we do have a fairly recent sale for the subject property. This one transacted in October of 2019 for $1.2 million. And then you can see on the photo, I've included beneath that the aerial photo. This property is being actively developed or built upon. You can see the location now, so we're further east than the properties we've been discussing from the rest of the morning here. So just to the east of Rory Street, in between Bannatyne and John Hirsch Place. I've included Google Street View photos, so this would have been taken close to 2019, around the time of that sale, prior to any sort of development occurring. The subject property is part of my comparables spreadsheet here. Looks like that's comparable number 10. You can see 127 Bannatyne, so $1.2 million. As Mr. McIntyre pointed out, these are unadjusted, so that was the sale price back in 2019. Over that lot size of 12,637 square feet, means that this property transacted for just a few pennies below $95 a foot. Currently, using our 2023 reference date, our model is producing an assessed value of $115.85 a foot, for that total value of $1,464,000. Below that on page 5, I included a permit here just to expand a bit upon what's happening with the site. So from what I can see here, there's a 10-story, 80-unit multifamily dwelling currently being constructed. So the current and future use won't be for parking, as the property here is actively being developed. And then beginning on page 6, I've included all the same comparable information, photos and maps for your orientation. Again, the subject property is my comparable number 10. Yeah, that's all the information I have on this one. So 2019, it sold for 1.2 million. And then we've got a model assessment of 1.464, given that 2023 reference date. So a bit of appreciation there. And again, the property is actively being developed. So I'm going to recommend that 2025 assessment be confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions, Mr. Navarro?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Knight, questions for the assessor?
No, sir.
Mr. McIntyre, questions for the assessor?
I I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you, and I have none either. Mr. Navarro. What
Um,
would you like to do, sir?
well, we are seeking a confirmation on this one specifically because it is, at some point there will be a 15 or sorry, a supplementary assessment on this.
You know how long this building will take to be completed, or do you have any sense of that, sir?
I get the sense that probably sometime next year.
All right. Excellent. Thank you very much. And we will move on to the next item. That being 170 Bannatyne Avenue. So, Mr. Cupfer, would you like to walk through your presentation at this point, please?
Yes, sir. That is file number 24-3658. The roll number is 1306-0747000. Street address of 170 Bannatyne Avenue, and the owner is 170 Bannatyne Avenue Limited. This is again commercial downtown surface parking, the land area of 11,140 square feet, and a 2025 modeled land assessment of $1,349,000, which I'm going to recommend be confirmed. Scrolling to page 2 of my brief, you can see this property transacted, I believe, on the same date or within the similar time frame as the last one we discussed, for $1,060,000 back in 2019. You can see below that the highlighted yellow portion, that's the subject property. So we're just off of Main Street here, quite close to my office, and quite close to City Hall as well. It's a bit of a more odd shape than some of the other ones that we've discussed, but nonetheless, that's what it is. Moving to page 3, you'll see the Google Street View photo that I've included. Again, this one is at this time, I believe, being used still as parking. There's no active development on this site to my knowledge, unlike the last property. And then moving to page 4, again, this is comparable number 9 on my spreadsheet here. You can see the sale there, October 2019, which worked out to just over $95 a foot. And we have an assessment here being produced by our model of $121.10 per foot. Again, that would be about 4 years later, given our reference date, being applied over that area of 11,140 square feet. That's how we get to our 2025 assessment of $1,349,000. Beyond that, I've included, to be consistent here, the income and expense information and all photos and maps of our comparable downtown properties. So with that, I'm going to recommend that our 2025 assessment be confirmed, $1,349,000. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Navarro, questions of the assessor?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. McIntyre, any questions for the assessor?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Knight, any questions for the assessor?
No, sir.
Thank you very much, and I have no questions. Mr. Navarro?
We are asking for confirmation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. And this brings us to item number 9 on our docket, the last item. This is 416 Main Street. Mr. Kupfer, can we hear from you on this particular property, sir?
Certainly, this is file number 24-3422. The roll number is 130-960-10400. This is again commercial downtown surface parking. The land area is just over 30,000 square feet, so it's a nice big piece of land. And we have a 2025 model-driven assessment here, again, using land value of $3,278,000 that I'm going to recommend be confirmed. Scrolling down to page 2 of the brief, you can see the subject property. So this is just north of the corner of Portage and Main, across from Lombard. So it's a very well located piece of land. Scrolling to page 3, you can see Google Street View photo. I'm sure it'll look familiar to you. And then another aerial photo that's been included to show that location. Scrolling to page 4, you can see subject sale history. Again, no transactions since 2003, and that was a $1 consideration. The subject property breakdown here is showing a net rate of just over $109 per foot being applied to that 30,059 square feet, giving us our total 2025 value of $3,278,000. Page 5, comparables here. Apologize, they'll look a little bit different as this brief was prepared at a different time, and then I think this property was bumped over to this docket. However, it looks like what's happened here is the larger downtown parcels have been consolidated into a smaller land comparable sheet, so where there's only 5 on here, but they're all larger parcels similar to the subject property, which is a 30,000 square foot parcel. So we've got 5 here, all within the vicinity here: Pioneer, Donalds, Bannatyne, Hargrave, and Donalds again. And then pages 6 and 7 pertain to our Municipal Assessment Act excerpts, and then some income and expense information. Again, we're assessing this one on land, so nothing really of note to touch on there. And then beginning down on page 15, you'll find the familiar photos and maps for the comparables which have been provided for this property. And yeah, that's all I have on this one. So again, 2025 model-driven assessment, $3,278,000, or just over $109 a foot, I think should be confirmed today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kupfer. Ms. Knight, oh, sorry, Mr. Navarro, questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Ms. Knight, questions for the assessor?
No, sir.
Thank you. Mr. McIntyre, questions for the assessor?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Navarro, we're back to you, sir.
We are asking for confirmation, Mr. Chair.
All right. Seeing that we've heard all items scheduled, and this hearing now is adjourned. So I thank you very much both for your expedient processing of 9 properties this morning. Thank you.
Thank you all.
sir. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Good
good
day.
day.